Is it time for the Arizona Diamondbacks to have some serious discussions about moving on from Paul Sewald as their closer? We're talking about this now and more right now on PHNX D-Backs. Let's go. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app now and use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Welcome in. My name, of course, is your mayor of PHNX, occasionally known as Derek Montilla. His name is the vice mayor of PHNX, occasionally known as Jesse Friedman, also known as your Thunderstick. Jesse, it's another one of those days where, despite the fact that the Diamondbacks won a series, we are left focusing on the negative a bit, and it's a discussion a lot of you have wanted to have. We got quite a few Mailbag Monday questions about what the Diamondbacks should do at closer, and of course, it's our big topic today, and that is because the Diamondbacks lost the finale to the Pittsburgh Pirates in epic fashion. It was one of the craziest losses of the season for this team. And it was a game that they were winning in the top of the ninth inning. Sure, it was by one run. It was another one of those days where the offense really wasn't doing much. So you could very much say that they should have been able to have a little bit more distance than just being up 2-1 there in the ninth inning to the Pirates, but the D-Backs, of course, have Paul Sewald come in. He gives up a run and blows yet another save opportunity for this team. Jesse, what were your thoughts in general? I know we have more about this game to discuss, but the way that this game went down, this was a crazy game.
I mean, so we'll talk about Sewald, right? We'll talk about what happened in the ninth inning here in a little bit. But the 10th inning of this game, Derek, was absolutely insane.
Bonkers.
It was absolutely insane. So, right, it's a tie game, obviously. You get to the 10th inning, Justin Martinez comes in for the Diamondbacks. Struggled a little bit lately in higher leverage situations. Ji-Hwan Bae starts off by laying down a bunt, and J-Mart looks at third for a little bit too long, wanted to get the out there, winds up not getting an out at all. So you've got first and third with nobody out. Not a great start. J-Mart struggled to throw strikes a bit. He walks Yasmani Grandal. Then there was a fielder's choice play that Jose Herrera, was not a great throw by Geraldo Perdomo, but Jose Herrera managed to keep his foot on home plate after review. It was originally called as a play where the Diamondbacks got 0 outs, but they do wind up getting an out on replay. And then Justin Martinez uncorks a wild pitch. We had an intentional walk because that opened up first base. And then the very next hitter was Alika Williams, who had come in as a pinch runner for the Pittsburgh Pirates, which if you are a pinch runner for the Pittsburgh Pirates, at least this current iteration of the team, you're probably not a very good hitter. And Justin Martinez hits him with the very first pitch of the at-bat, forcing in another run. Yeah. That makes it 4-2. And then Bryce Jarvis comes in. He's able to get out of the inning, but not before the Pirates add 2 more runs on a bloop single. Essentially, Derek, the Pirates did not hit a baseball hard in the 10th inning, and they scored 4 runs and made it 6-2, took a commanding lead. It felt very much like the game was over at that point. We get to the bottom half of the 10th inning, and the game was actually not over as quickly as we thought. It got a lot more interesting. Gino Suarez hit what appeared to possibly be a fan interference-aided home run. It was reviewed. It stayed a home run, and it made it 6-4.
Here's my problem with those kind of fan interference home runs is that, like, if you look at what happened, the ball looked very much like the trajectory was going to make it go out. Like, yes, in a way, the outfielder reaching out could have grabbed it had they had maybe a clean opportunity at it. But
sure.
I don't really think that if a player goes into the crowd to try to catch the ball. It should be fan interference at all. And I feel personally like that's just free game for you as a fan to smack the ball out of their hand if they do attempt to catch it. Like, they've come into your territory now at that point. We have instances where fans obviously reach way out into the field of play and grab a ball that wasn't even going to be over the yellow line. Like, there's instances like that, and that's completely different. But this one, I was kind of on board. Of course, obviously, it was a pro Diamondbacks one, so that's a whole other thing. But I just couldn't believe that after they were able to muster up what they did offensively this entire game, the Diamondbacks do what they do in the bottom of the 10th inning. You know, that's just kind of incredible. Not to mention the fact that they had the tying run in Corbin Carroll triple and be 90 feet away from scoring.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting to, is that the game was not at all over, right? Gino hits that home run, a couple of ground outs, and you feel like, all right, the game is probably over at this point. And then Lourdes Gurriel works an outrageously impressive at bat and winds up hitting a homer that was an absolute shot down the left field line. That makes it a 6-5 game with 2 outs. And then Corbin Carroll plays with everybody's emotions by hitting a triple and literally bringing the tying run 90 feet away. And unfortunately, that's where it ended, as Geraldo Perdomo grounded out and the Diamondbacks lose 6-5. You can't say it wasn't entertaining, Derek. It might have been tragic for Diamondbacks fans. You can't say it wasn't entertaining the way that this game ended. But yes, I know that everyone is thinking about Sewald and what happened in the 9th inning, the fact that the Diamondbacks had, albeit just a 1-run lead. I mean, it was a 2-1 game. But this Pirates offense is not great, especially the lineup that they put out yesterday. I know Sewald had to face some of their better hitters who were on the bench. Rowdy Tellez came in and hit a double. Joey Bart did the other bit of damage in that 9th inning with a pinch hit RBI double that tied the game. There's no getting around it. Paul Sewald has had just an absolutely brutal month of July, and I know people are asking questions about his job security as the closer of this team. And I think those questions are pretty valid. They're valid, but there's also a question as to why Torey continues to turn to Justin Martinez late, because we've seen that's one option a lot of people have wanted for this team. Obviously he's had some success this year, some great success. His pitches are just nasty. But when we see Justin Martinez in a high leverage situation, he falls apart as well, right? Like, he seems that he isn't ready yet. It's not to say he isn't a very viable weapon for this team and could be 7th, 8th inning guy, just like he has been utilized. But of course, people want to instantly turn to J Mart as that like obvious option. And in all honesty, we're talking here about Paul Sewald, but Martinez absolutely fell apart there in the 10th inning as well, right? So it's like there really is an issue when it comes to who they can trust late in games. Sewald has, I think, the closer mentality and the ability to be out there in those high leverage situations, as far as, his calmness and his demeanor and his experience, right? But it seems like this guy throwing 2 pitches isn't effective. And he's joked in the past that he's not really going to surprise people with his pitch selection, considering they know what he's throwing. And that kind of seems to be the case here with some of these blown saves. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, there's a lot of relievers that only throw 2 pitches, right? I mean, that's not just like a Sewald thing. But what you're seeing now is you're seeing the fastball just not be very effective anymore. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are talking about the velo. It is down this season. That's something that we pegged in spring training as a possible concern when he was, 88, 89 pretty consistently in spring training. You figured he'd get some of that back, but it hasn't really all come back for him. He's down about a tick and a half from a year ago. So yeah, I think the velo I think it's a valid point. I still think that Sewald's fastball can be effective when it's thrown in the right spots. And I don't think he's been as good at hitting those spots here this month either. And so, you put those 2 things together, the sweeper, I don't think has been really at its best either. That's really a pitch that hasn't gotten a ton of swing and miss really ever since he joined the Diamondbacks. It had a whiff rate just under 33% with the Mariners in the first half last year. It's had a whiff rate of 26.7% ever since he came over to the Diamondbacks. So yeah, it's not just velo, it is location as well. But granted, when you're throwing 91 miles an hour, the funky arm slot and all,
Yeah.
the margin for error is not very big. And when Sewald throws one of those pitches in a bad spot, we're seeing it get hit regularly pretty hard. And yeah, I mean, last year, the average exit velo on Sewald's four-seamer was 85.1 miles an hour. This year, it's 93.5. So that is a very, very big difference. And yeah, I think it's valid looking at the weapons this team has in the back end, Derek. Paul Sewald is pretty clearly, at least from what we've seen so far this season, he is not the best reliever on this team. There are other guys who have been more effective than him for sure.
Well, and that's the thing is we've also seen Torrey turn to those guys and have those guys also not be very effective in the ninth inning. It's like a curse that this team has had for, the last two seasons. Paul Sewald felt like he was the cure to that curse, especially the stability that he brought with that trade for Sewald and what he brought to the bullpen. Now we're potentially looking at maybe the Diamondbacks turning to another player, either currently in the organization or perhaps somebody that they could pick up here before the trade deadline. The part that sucks about this is this does sour a solid series the Diamondbacks had against a hot baseball team in the Pittsburgh Pirates, right? They came into here with a very, very good starting, pitching ERA and relief ERA, and the Diamondbacks were able to take 2 out of 3 here. Unfortunately, in the finale, I think one thing that you could criticize about Torey Lovullo is I don't know how much of a coincidence it is that this team doesn't sweep, considering that Torey Lovullo will tend to tweak his lineup or make some changes and not really go, 100% full throttle in the finale of a series when he could. It feels like he could keep, his foot on the pedal there, right? There's some questions there about how he managed the game late for sure. I still don't blame Torrey for Sewald blowing the save. The team is up by 1 run. You put your closer in, and that's what you should expect to do. I mean, obviously, having confidence in your guys and keep putting them out there after a while might be to a point where you obviously have to blame the manager. I don't blame Torrey right now for trusting Sewald to go out there. I still kind of scratch my head about what this team was able to suddenly do when they were down significantly in the bottom of the 10th versus what they were able to do the rest of the entire baseball game. So I mean, there's a lot to go around here on this one, but let's take a look though at the series count presented by Desert Financial Credit Union. Again, Diamondbacks take 2 out of 3 here. They still have not lost a series in the month of July, and here they could go up against Nationals and close things out here with their final series and kind of make this July again the antithesis to last July. But the Diamondbacks outscore the Pirates in this series 18-14. They out hit the Pirates 27-22. Runners in scoring position, the Pirates were 6 for 31 with a 194 batting average. Diamondbacks were 8 for 28 for a 286 batting average. Starting pitching ERA, there's a positive sign there for the Diamondbacks a little bit, 4.24 to the Pirates, 5.65. Both teams fairly terrible with both of these pitching numbers. Relief pitching ERA, Diamondbacks 4.09 ERA to the Pirates 6.17. So again, Diamondbacks were able to again take another series against a hot team and continue, their battle here for the wild card. It's important because as they kind of distance themselves here, we're seeing all these trades taking place, Jesse, and we're seeing which teams are in it based on their actions and which teams are kind of waving the white flag a bit. We are also seeing some of those teams that are selling at the deadline getting quite the haul in those trade returns. But of course, one of the questions we do have is if the Diamondbacks would go out there and attempt to trade for a closer, are there any options available on the market right now?
Yeah, if the Diamondbacks were to trade for a closer, I mean, I guess maybe that's what people want to see the Diamondbacks do. There obviously is still a window of opportunity here to do that. Yeah, and that's the $1 million question for anyone saying I want to see Sewald out of the closing role. What is the alternative? Like, what do you propose, right? I mean, if you don't have a good answer to that question, then you can't really entertain the idea of removing Sewald from that role. Could the Diamondbacks go out there and get, I guess Tanner Scott is still out there. Kyle Finnegan is still out there. Those are the 2 main guys on the market who have closing experience, who are currently operating as closers. I would be really surprised if the D-backs did either of those things, frankly. I think AJ Puck was already a pretty big addition to this bullpen. And
Yeah.
we do know that the Diamondbacks are still looking at relief pitching. That's something Mike Hazen said the other day. I don't necessarily get the sense that they're looking at like a back end closer type reliever. It seemed more like maybe a depth kind of option to just help lengthen things out even further. So yeah, I mean, on paper, sure, you put Tanner Scott in this bullpen and you move Sewald out of the closer role and you're in a great spot. But the cost there is obviously going to be pretty high. And I'd be pretty surprised if the Diamondbacks are willing to do that.
Well, we do have some candidates here. So let's take a look at some potential trade targets. And again, these might not be closing options, but those options for the Diamondbacks there in the bullpen. First, we have Reed Detmers from the Los Angeles Angels. Hasn't had a great season this year, but again, another left-handed reliever that the Diamondbacks could be looking to, have more than just the two arms in the bullpen that are lefties. 63 innings pitched this season, a 6.14 ERA, 1.48 whip. He's had averaging 10 strikeouts per 9, averaging 3.9 walkouts per 9 with a 4.37 FIP, which tells you a little bit there more about his season than the 6.14 ERA.
Yeah, so Detmers is really interesting. He's a starter, but the inning total here is a little bit deceptive because he is currently in AAA for the Los Angeles Angels, which I guess tells you everything you need to know about the season that he has had. The Angels decided to send him down. Reed Detmers, kind of a bigger name. He was a very highly touted prospect not all that long ago, and you can see here 10 Ks per 9, 3.9 walks per 9. Like if you're a starting pitcher striking out more than a batter an inning, like that's a pretty notable thing. So his FIP was 4.37 when he was in the majors earlier this year for the Angels. And this is not really a candidate for the closer role necessarily, but this is a guy who came up in a recent report over at Yahoo Sports. They mentioned that the Diamondbacks have checked in on Reed Detmers, and this would be a controllable starting pitcher, which is something that we know that the Diamondbacks are certainly looking at. It doesn't seem necessarily likely that they pull something like this off, but Detmers is under club control through 2027. So if he would be a bit of a gamble. Like you're not necessarily getting Reed Detmers because you think he's going to be stellar down the stretch in 2024. He's had a bit of a rough season, but his prospect status combined with the fact that he's on the Angels, which apparently the Angels seem to be willing to trade just about anyone on their roster right now. It'd be interesting for the D-backs to say the least. I mean, I don't know exactly what a package would look like to get something like this done. He's a really hard player to evaluate, and we haven't seen the Diamondbacks acquire players like this too often, like starting pitchers who really struggled in other places that they try to fix. That's not really something they've done in the past, but maybe they feel they have the ability to try to get a guy like Reed Detmers and help turn his career around.
Well, we also have another, this time bullpen arm from the Washington Nationals, Dylan Floro. What do you got on Dylan, Jesse?
Yeah, Dylan Floro, he would be not necessarily a closer candidate. He's someone who has closed some games in the past. He's with the Washington Nationals this year. 52 and a third innings, a 2.06 ERA, a 1.05 whip, 6.9 Ks per 9, 2.2 walks per 9, 2.61 FIP. That's 6.9 Ks per 9. That's pretty low. He's not a big strikeout guy. His velo has dropped a little bit this year, but an ERA in the low twos is an ERA in the low twos. He is under team control just through the end of this season. He'll be a free agent at the end of the year. So Floro fits in that category of reliever I was talking about earlier. That kind of seems realistic, where the D-backs just add another guy to help lengthen things out in the bullpen. Maybe the Nationals are asking for the sun, moon, and stars for Floro, even though he's getting a little older and the velo is not quite what it once was. His numbers, his surface numbers are obviously really good, but he's a guy that I could see making some sense for the D-backs here in the next 24 hours.
It's weird because we've seen some teams making moves, and obviously it's just our personal opinion. We don't know how any of this is going to play out, especially when prospects are involved. But by comparison, it feels like the Diamondbacks acquisition of AJ Puck is very low cost compared to what some other teams have have kind of had to give up in order to get certain relievers, some of the relievers we've brought up on this show, right? So there's some transactions happening and some names moving around. But again, the Diamondbacks kind of, if they do want to go a different route with that closing role, they do have options in-house, guys that have closed, guys that could potentially be very good in that role. I don't want to see Torey Lovullo go back to a closer by committee. I think that would be a huge mistake. However, I could see how tantalizing it could be for him, considering some of, the hosses he has out there in the bullpen and how he might want to just go conditionally based on, the matchups for one guy or another, especially with AJ Puck being out there, especially with Kevin Ginkel and the way he's been able to clean things up lately. I also don't think, much to probably his detriment, I don't think Torey is going to move away from Paul Sewald. I think it's going to take...
He already said, he was asked after last night's game, is Sewald still your closer? He said yes. Yeah. So in terms of what the Diamondbacks are actually doing right now, right. The end of conversation, Paul Sewald is still the Diamondbacks closer, at least based on what Torey said yesterday.
So we could have this opinion, based conversation about should they, and I think a lot of us would agree they should. But at the same time, you got to keep in mind what happens when other people step into the same role. It's not like we're seeing a tremendous amount of success from someone else. And I feel like Torey has kind of leaned towards giving certain guys high leverage situations. So far, Ginkel feels like the one that's been able to get the job done, kind of most consistently, especially in that most recent performance where he kind of cleaned up Zach Gallen's mess.
Yeah, people are making a good observation in the chat that the Diamondbacks are about to play a 3-game series with the Nationals, so it would be very funny if they were to trade for a Dylan Floro or,
just come on over.
Or Kyle Finnegan. Yeah. Super convenient, right? We could have done it a few days ago. We wanted to just make it nice and easy and do it so you can just...
I would love to just one time have them trade major league players on teams that are playing each other and have those guys just go do a jersey swap.
Yeah,
just walk across it. Yeah, just take off his jerseys. Just here, you get yours and I get mine. Yeah, but... of course, we have no idea if the Diamondbacks are done making moves. We have no idea how much of a catastrophe Paul Sewald starting or closing would have to be until Torey moved on. We really don't, as far as how committed they are.
Yeah, it feels like the leash has to be getting shorter, right? 4 blown saves in 1 month is pretty significant. Sure. And I think the reason the Diamondbacks aren't making a change yet is because Sewald on the season is 16 for 20 in save opportunities and has a 3.77 ERA. Is that great? No, but it's not really all that bad either, right? That's basically like a league average closer, an 80% conversion rate. It's really not all that bad, but obviously, it doesn't tell the story of kind of the trajectory of the season he's had, which is that he was outstanding for the first couple months coming off that oblique strain, a 0.54 ERA entering this month. And then this month he has an ERA of 9.38, right? I think it's 10 earned runs and 9 2/3 innings, 17 hits allowed. Still a good number of strikeouts. He's only walked 1 batter in the month of July. It's just a matter of he's just getting hit hard, right? Like these pitches just aren't deceiving hitters. They're not missing barrels to the extent that we've seen in the past. People are also talking in the chat about a move that just happened, the roster move the Diamondbacks just made, which is interesting. They have sent down Yilber Diaz, Derek, and they have recalled Slade Cecconi from AAA Reno.
Yep, and the 40-man roster is currently at 39. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because Yilber Diaz just threw 5 scoreless innings. There were a lot of uncompetitive pitches in the game yesterday. I think I can kind of understand the D-backs realizing that maybe he needs a little bit more seasoning in the minors. It worked against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but as we said earlier, the lineup that they put out yesterday was especially brutal, even by their standards. They had a few guys out. It is very interesting though, because obviously this opens up a spot in the rotation. Slade Cecconi's been working as a reliever in the minors. I do not expect him to be starting for the D-backs. So
1 bullpen game, and then would anybody be coming home? Would Merrill Kelly be coming? Is this all way too early for these guys to?
Yeah,
Merrill did say mid-August, right? Isn't that what Merrill said?
Yeah, I don't think that they would be ready to take the next turn through the rotation or anything like that. I know that they wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, this week they'd be building up to 3 innings.
Not the next turn in the rotation. That's what I'm saying. But the following one after that, is that too soon? Considering Yilber
Yeah,
That
I
would
think
be
that
like
is still
10
too
days,
soon.
11 or maybe 11, 12 days from now.
Yeah, I tried mapping this out earlier. I think the earliest that I could see either of those guys starting in the big leagues would be August 11th against the Phillies. Just kind of mapping out the days in Reno where they could be, pitching in rehab games and whatnot. You're not getting either of those guys to 5 innings before August 11th, or at least right around then. So yeah, that's a ways in the future. The D-backs do have an off day this Thursday. That they can maybe use to skip someone, but they don't have any other off days between then
They're obviously
and August 15th.
They're obviously trading for a starting pitcher.
That is also
They're
possible.
obviously trading for a starting pitcher. That's what's happening.
It would be weird to me though for them to make this. Well, yeah. I mean, if they knew they were trading for a starting pitcher, then I guess you'd be like, all right, we're not going to have Yilber Diaz make another start, so we might as well bring in Slade as an extra reliever for today.
Tarek Skubal, come on home.
Yes, clearly breaking news: the Diamondbacks have traded for Tarek Skubal. There's no other way to interpret
That's the
this
only
roster
answer.
move,
That's the only answer here. Well. Of course, we thank you guys so much for being here right now on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so right now. Sign up for notifications. Was that Corbin that stopped by to tell you to drop a like? Hit the like button, HTL, while you're here. Make sure you sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever any of our shows go live. Of course, if you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you subscribe over there as well. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that feedback. Of course, if you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed.com is driven by the search for better. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And it's not just about hiring candidates faster or giving you more candidates faster. It's about finding you quality candidates. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. You can have a lot of unqualified people apply for a job that ends up taking up a lot of your time. Indeed will sift through those candidates. They will help you with scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with quality candidates faster. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And of course, we have to talk about Mint Mobile, but that allows me really just to talk about my man crush on Ryan Reynolds and going to see Deadpool and Wolverine. That's really what this segment is about. But that's only because the embargo has been lifted, and now I can spoil all the things about the movie here right now on this podcast. So get ready. No, I wouldn't do that, but I do suggest that you check out Mint Mobile, and maybe you can talk about it with your friends. Do people still talk on the phone? I mean, I don't know if they actually, because none of these guys answer when I call them. So I don't think people actually talk on the phone anymore. But if you...
Jesse and I talk on the phone all the time.
Yeah, to each other, but you don't answer when I call, and that's very upsetting to me that you just said that you guys talk all the time.
That's not here nor there. Me and Jesse, we have good conversations on the phone.
I know.
We do.
Brothers for life.
Quality conversations. Well, you can have those kind of conversations about all the cameos in Deadpool on Mint Mobile, because they are here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All of your stuff can come with it. You can use your own phone, current phone number. You don't have to change a thing except your high-priced wireless plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Ditch that overpriced wireless plan with Mint Mobile's limited time deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. That's mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Diamondbacks. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Well, we are very glad to have all of you here with us. And of course, we haven't gotten to do this in a long time.
It's been a while.
But you know what it is, Jesse. You know, Jesse, that every year on this show is our year. And it's the year of the snake. So it's very much our year. Every month on this show is Women's History Month, of course. And every month on this show is, I guess, Olympic History Month. I don't know. There's something about the Olympics in there. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that word because it might be copywritten and we're not a sponsor and stuff. So it's very complicated. Don't put the rings up while I'm talking or anything.
Copyright the word?
I don't know.
Copyright a word?
What can we talk about anymore? I don't think we can say that without like being a partner. But anyway, obviously, every day on this podcast is Earth Day, and every week on this podcast, Shark Week. But on Mondays, you know what we do? We go to the mailbag. Damon, let's go.
My mailbox, always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox, and then once in a while, there's a letter that makes me go wow, wow. My mailbox.
All right, what do we got, Damon? First question here.
It's all going to be Paul Sewald again.
It's all
isn't
Paul
it?
Sewald related. They're just going to be one after another. Let's just get through all the Paul Sewald questions in a row. Let's start with that.
Okay, I don't know how many Paul Sewald questions there are, but
we'll
I
get
don't
to
think.
them.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. We're starting off with Michael Rokicki here, and he asks, "Can someone explain to me, like I'm 5, why Corbin is still leading off instead of Jake the Rake McCarthy or Damon's favorite player, Geraldo Perdomo?"
Well, I didn't like Perdomo really in the 2-hole yesterday, so I think Perdomo just needs to go back to his place hitting ninth.
Can I say real quick?
he
I
was
agree
that
with that
smart.
completely. I love Perdomo. Obviously, he's my guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I think his value lies in that he's a great 9-hole hitter. Like he gets on base at the bottom of your lineup. He's not gonna, his slugging percentage is obviously pretty in the dirt. But like he's a guy that's gonna just get on base for your better hitters at the top of the lineup, and he's a good situational hitter, which oftentimes you don't have in the 9-hole.
Yes.
So I think he's a perfect bottom of the order type of guy. I wouldn't suggest moving him up as a good idea.
What I don't like is the fact that guys work out in certain roles or in certain spots in the lineup, and then Torrey feels the need to move them. Right? Like we've already talked about Gabby Moreno having a tremendous amount of success in the 2-hole. Obviously, it's a small sample size, so that's why it's easy for us to sit here and say, hit Gabby second. Do it, I guess, until it's, not working, or do it and but you don't know until you have him in there hitting. So far, he has proven that he actually does very well hitting in that lineup spot. So
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was just a weird scenario because Ketel Marte was on the bench, and so was Gabby Moreno. And so those are kind of your two main number 2 hitters, both sitting on the same day, which I know some people were not too happy about that in and of itself.
that's another thing. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like I don't think that Geraldo Perdomo should be in the leadoff spot. Frankly, Geraldo Perdomo has not had a very good season offensively. His OPS for the year has dipped into the pretty low 600s. If I can find it real quick, he's at 623. So that's not a guy you want in the 1-hole or the 2-hole.
And the question mostly is about, like Elise says here, like leadoff Corbin just hasn't worked this year consistently. And I think that's the main part of Michael's question is, why is Corbin still hitting leadoff when he hasn't been working out there? I think the idea there is that they still want Corbin to get as many at-bats as possible, despite the fact that he hasn't been doing well consistently. He's had his moments. It's the fact that Corbin can change the game by getting on base at any point. I think that that's what Torrey sees in him potentially, to a fault, right? And I mean, this is probably, again, when you want to talk about Torrey's managerial faults, it's believing in guys and trusting them beyond the point that other people, including most of us as fans and people watching, feel comfortable in that spot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think another big part of the question is about Jake McCarthy, and specifically given the success that he's
Mr. 5
had.
for 5.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of Jake McCarthy in the leadoff spot, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, he has a 366 on base percentage this season. That's really good stuff.
Not a lot of power. He's fast like Corbin. He gets on base and he can make things happen. That's the big thing about Jake, is he does the same things that Corbin does well, and he's arguably a better defender in the outfield. And I mean, again, right now he's better at the dish, so I don't have an answer for, I don't have a way to explain why it is. I guess the answer there is that, people are given roles, and those roles are the roles that they're in despite the success that they're having. And Torrey, again, trusts guys or believes in guys to a fault, where he thinks everybody's going to, kind of hit out of it or find their way out of these situations. And in most cases they do, but I get the frustration with it for sure. What else we got, Damon?
Next question here comes from Ryan RVO80495 on Twitter. And he says, when can it be decided that it's time to move on from Paul Sewald and look for another closer. This has to be a time when it's just excuses and results are not like they used to be anymore. Are we there yet?
I'd say we're there.
If it's you, do you make a change today? Do you take Paul Sewald out of the closer role right now?
See,
I think people in the chat, that's probably what they would do.
And I think the idea there is that who do you go with right now? Do you already put AJ Puck in that role, considering he's just stepping onto this team, and you kind of can make that move without disrupting the other roles in the bullpen? Where does Sewald pitch? Are you just going to bench him for the rest of the season? Are you going to DFA him? Like,
yeah, I mean, that I think would be pretty clearly outrageous. But yeah, maybe you move Sewald into more of a sixth inning role, like still like maybe innings where you have a lead, but a lot earlier in the game. And then, yeah, in my mind, I mean, the options that could make sense are Kevin Ginkel, AJ Puck, and Ryan Thompson. Those are the three that I think you could have a conversation about. Right. Justin Martinez, I think we've learned in the last couple of weeks, the high leverage situations, he's looked pretty shaky. He's looked pretty out of sorts. I don't really think anyone is wanting to see Justin Martinez in that role at this point with what we've seen lately. But Kevin Ginkel has been on a heck of a run here over the last month or two. Yeah. AJ Puck, obviously, the numbers that he put up before coming to the Diamondbacks and how good he's looked so far. Yeah, I mean, is it Ginkel if you've got mostly righties and Puck if you've got mostly lefties? Yeah. Like maybe people want sort of a platoon closer situation of sorts there.
It's not terrible. It's the way that this other team has, the other parts of this team has worked out well. Connor Mormon says, "Hear me out, closer by committee," with a crying face. Like, here we are. We're back to this point.
Yeah, see, there's something about that also, like, you know, even though the D-backs clearly have more weapons to do something like that now, it just doesn't seem to work. I mean, it just feels like teams that use that approach don't tend to have a whole lot of success with it. And, you know, I think a lot of the success that guys have had in this bullpen over the last year has been tied to the fact that they do have a very specific defined role and they can get comfortable in that.
It's so weird, right? Because it's still just pitching and it should be matchups and it should be, you know, going to a guy, but it's just different. You end the game if you go out there and you do your job well, and if you don't, you lose that fucking game. And that's hard for a lot of pitchers to handle that pressure in that moment. And that's the reason why some guys are basically, you know, cut out to be that closer. They have that ice water in their veins. They're able to go out there. They're able to you know, thrive under the bright lights of that moment, and they can succeed. Honestly, I don't want Ryan Thompson out there as a closer.
You don't want Ryan Thompson?
You know why? Because he hasn't been able to get the job done on hitting one finishing move on me. Not one pro wrestling finishing move. He's made attempts several times, and I'm just saying, if your closer should be someone that can get the job done. And I'm saying, like, if you're trying to attack me physically, I'm not very fast. You know what I mean? Like,
in all, yeah. I mean, Thompson is another guy. You could make Thompson the closer. I feel like with Ryan Thompson, he just doesn't. He doesn't really have the prototypical closer stuff, right? Like you're used to a closer having, you know, being able to get a lot of swing and miss. And that's, you know, Ryan Thompson's been great this year, but he actually gets quite a bit less swing and miss than you know, even an average reliever. So it works for him. He's getting, you know, soft contact on the ground, but it's not a prototypical closer fit necessarily.
Yeah, Geek Martinez is not wrong. He says Tea Time would go crazy on the Jumbotron. It absolutely would.
Now Derek's back in.
I'm back in. I'm 100% in. No, after what I saw Ginkel do cleaning up that mess that like Gallen left him with the other night, that impressed me more than a lot of outings I've seen out of our relievers this year. It's one thing to go out there with you know, the bases empty and to do your job in an inning. And it's a whole other thing to have two inherited runners and no outs in an inning and go out there and do what Ginkel did in that instance. So I feel like he kind of has that mentality to get that job done. So, but we'll see. And I doubt that anything's going to happen. And I think we have more Paul Sewald questions anyway.
Yeah.
What else?
What other Paul Sewald questions?
Well, first off, I just have to say, Christopher, chill out, my man. We're not trading Corbin.
Oh yeah, no, we're not. Like,
I'd love to send Carroll to his hometown Seattle team for George Kirby or Logan Gilbert.
It's a down year. Wow. It's a down year. It's okay. Wow. We're gonna be okay.
Oh boy,
that's a heck of a trade proposal.
Let's save that one. Let's
relax.
Yeah, let's save that take for a later time.
Next question comes from Chance Rushing, and he asks, with all the casuals complaining about Sewald, can we talk about the other 13? blown games that weren't Sewald because the setup relievers didn't even hold the game in a position to let Sewald blow a save.
Chance is keeping notes. Chance has receipts because that is true. And again, it's something that we've seen out of this team, right? Like people have quietly calmed down about asking for Justin Martinez to be in that closer role, but people were very loud about it not too long ago. And it's not something that still isn't in the future, right? That is something that's very much in the future because his stuff is incredible. Like, again, Torrey talked about how, you know, everybody was asking him about Justin Martinez during All-Star weekend, right? So, like, people know and they're wondering where this guy came from and if he's for real, right? So there is something definitely interesting about Justin Martinez in that role in the future, but we've seen him in these high leverage situations fall apart. And again, that's a big part of it. It's not just having the stuff, but be able to throw it and just have that same cold mentality of blowing your hand off, but doing it after you went out there and did it, you know, in the 9th inning or 10th inning. Right. So, but I mean, there is something to be said about at times that all the guys that probably are candidates outside of maybe Ginkel have had their struggles at times. I mean, there were some very good sub-1 ERAs in that bullpen, you know, like a month ago or so, but everybody's kind of gone through it where things haven't gone perfectly for them and they've had their issues.
I will say, like, I don't feel like the D-backs have had a lot of games over the last month where they lost in a situation where one of the other relievers like kind of blew the game before Sewald got a chance to pitch. I don't really think that's something we've seen. We have seen guys struggle for sure. Justin Martinez probably more than anyone else. I think back to I think it was on July 2nd against the Dodgers, which was a game that did end in a Paul Sewald blown save. Justin Martinez gave up a 2-run homer to Shohei Ohtani earlier in that game. D-backs would have had a more comfortable lead had that not happened. So yeah, it is valid to say that, you know, not all these games are on Paul Sewald solely. There have been some other instances where other relievers weren't great. You know, Joe Mantiply gave up a homer yesterday. He struggled in extra innings against the Cubs. We saw Mantiply not be so good in that spot. So it's not all Paul Sewald. The other guys take some responsibility as well. But at the same time, Sewald has been at the center of a lot of the Diamondbacks losses.
And they're the most
month.
devastating, to be honest, right? They're the instances where, especially being the closer, that they sting the most, where we literally watch him give up a walk-off and just have to sit on that, right? And
do you want me to run through every game the D-backs have lost here over the last month, Derek, and explain how it happened? It might make you cry.
Oh my God. Go.
Okay. So
do it.
So on June, this is the Diamondbacks' last 25 games. They are 16-9. They have lost only 9 games.
Give me the bourbon, Damon.
In their last 25, they've played very, very good baseball. But pretty much every time the Diamondbacks have lost in that span, it has come in fairly devastating fashion. So June 28th against the Oakland A's, D-backs had a 4-3 lead going into the 8th inning. Ryan Thompson had a rough day then. D-backs wind up losing. He gives up 3 runs. They wind up losing 9-4.
Who asked for this? Did anybody want this?
I think you just said you wanted it, Derek, so I'm going for it. July 2nd against the Dodgers. This is the game I just touched on. The D-backs were up 5-4 going to the bottom of the 9th, and Paul Sewald struck out the first 2 batters and then gave up 3 straight hits. They wind up losing that one 6-5. July 5th against the Padres was an insane baseball game. This is the game where the Diamondbacks were down 7-2 going to the 9th inning. And then Alec Thomas hit a grand slam. Randall Grichuk hit a 2-run homer. They took an 8-7 lead. And then in the bottom of the 9th inning, Paul Sewald gave up a homer.
That one
was
hurt.
Homer, homer. Yeah. And the Padres won that one 10-8. Skip ahead to July the 8th, the Diamondbacks' next loss in July. They were up 3-1 going into the top of the 9th. Paul Sewald retired the first 2 batters, and then he gave up a single and a 2-run homer to Sean Murphy with 2 outs that tied the game. D-backs wound up losing that one in 11 innings, 5-4. July 9th, Derek, the Diamondbacks lost like a normal game. Zach Gallen just sort of got outpitched by Chris Sale. They lose that one 6-2. July 14th was weird. That was the Blue Jays game when they were down 7-0, and then they scored 7 runs and tied it in the 5th inning. They wound up losing 8-7 on a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. homer. And then these last 3 losses, there was one that was fairly normal to the Royals where Yilber Diaz kind of got lit up. But that game in the Cubs, the finale, or against the Cubs, that finale in Chicago, where Brandon Pfaadt outpitched Shota Imanaga. And then Sewald was down that day. Justin Martinez blew the save. They lost on Humberto Castellanos walking in the winning run in the 10th inning.
Yeah,
and then that brings us to yesterday's game where it was another blown save.
People are talking about how giddy you sound talking about this stuff. Yeah,
I just think it's crazy, Derek, that they are 16-9 in their last 25 games. They have been in position to win 22 out of those 25 games. It's not to say the D-backs haven't played really well over the last month. They have. It's just, I mean, they could be playing an absolutely insane level of baseball over the last month.
Outrageous.
If they had managed to finish off a few more of those. So, it's tough. I mean, I've never seen anything like this where a team is genuinely playing very good baseball, and yet also it feels like they've left a lot on the table at the same time.
That's baseball, though, isn't it? I mean, it really is. And it happens to even the best teams in baseball, but it happens to the Diamondbacks more than we care to admit lately. However, it's still another series win. And I want to say that, by the way, it's still another series win. Let's not forget that despite the fact that they could probably have an insane record in the month of July, they've still been very, very good.
Yes.
And it's been fun to watch.
And winning 2 out of 3 against the Pirates is a totally fine outcome. Like that finale was always going to be tough with Mitch Keller on the mound. Mitch Keller threw really well. It's just a matter of how much they've left on the table, despite how well they've played.
Correct. All right, what else we got, Damon?
Next question comes from Stone Garrett Stan.
Hey.
And he says, who do you think will be the closer after Sewald is gone this offseason? I can't really see anybody on the current bullpen being a closer. J Mart is clearly not ready yet.
Well, I feel like we've answered this one probably up to this point already, but yeah, basically. I don't know. I don't know if it's a no to anybody on the current roster. I mean, we've seen guys have to step up into that role and do a decent job. So I'm not against the idea there of J Mart being the closer of the future. I think he definitely has the stuff and he's exciting. He's also taken a big leap forward in a short amount of time from when he wasn't able to even throw the ball in the strike zone at a major league level to doing what he's doing now. So I don't feel like he's far off from being ready, despite the fact that he has kind of fallen apart in a couple of these outings when he's been put out there in high leverage situations. He's also been very good at other times in high leverage situations. So again, I feel like he's close there, but you don't throw the stuff you do and you don't have people in baseball talking about you the way that he is if you're not a special talent.
Yeah, the potential for, as you said earlier, the potential for J Mart to be a closer in the future is very much still there. I think that could absolutely happen. But in terms of the options right now, we kind of touched on that earlier. It's not super obvious exactly what direction the D-backs should go. If Sewald continues to struggle, though, I could see the team taking a look at moving Sewald out of that role and going a different direction before. I don't know exactly how long it would take, but I think the leash is considerably shorter now than it was, at the beginning of this month, certainly.
Ernesto says he wants more closer questions. I think we beat this topic up. Do we have any more, Damon, or are we out? Did we scrape the bottom of the barrel?
Let's see here. We got PC Yoshi, and he says 2 questions, which kind of feels like cheating, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's
Notice
totally
that Slade
cheating.
is getting bullpen reps in Reno. Do you see him as a September call-up? I guess he just got called up right now.
I think he spoke that into existence.
Yeah, good job, PC Yoshi.
So I guess it's just one question, and he says, do you think Sewald is a Mets double agent, or he was just also negatively affected by Sal Lakita saying the NL wildcard race is over since he's a former Met?
No, this is Frank the Tank's fault. This is 100% Paul Sewald touching and fraternizing with Frank the Tank. That's
what day did that happen? Do we know?
That happened. Let's see. Wasn't he? Yeah, it was before he got bad. Right when he got bad. Yeah, he came out to throw out the first pitch, but it wasn't a Mets series.
I'm seeing a video on Twitter of that, June 30th.
And then what happened after that, Jesse? A lot of bad, right?
A lot of bad, pretty much
bad.
immediately.
Like immediately.
It was immediate, and he was untouchable before that. He was great before that. And then ever since then, he's been, even in his saves that he gets, he still lets runners on. Not very many clean innings, it feels like. Yeah.
But again, going back to the Slade question, like, it's still interesting how Slade's going to fit in here. Obviously, we know Slade is incredible the first time through the rotation or through the starting lineup, right? So maybe Slade gets used in a limited capacity. Maybe that's the reason why he's here. Or maybe, just maybe, the Arizona Diamondbacks make some sort of move for a starting pitcher, which would be kind of crazy. But
yeah, I just mapped it out. The D-backs, because of the off day on Thursday, they could go with just 4 starters for a while, but they will need a starter on August 6th. That is the first day where they would need a 5th starter.
What if they did a bullpen start on that day? When is the next time after that they would need a starter?
Yeah, they could do a bullpen game then, but they don't have any off days, so that feels a little bit dicey because, I mean, I guess if you're like shuttling guys back and forth from Reno and whatnot, maybe you can make it work. Cecconi is obviously here to provide some extra length.
I was going to say, so maybe they just make a move to bring Yilber potentially back before that date so that he comes back to start on that date?
He has to stay down for 15 days.
Oh, for 15 days.
Yeah, so they can't bring Yilber back until, what is that, like August 14th? So, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it is just a bullpen day, and then they'll figure it out from there. I mean, Tommy Henry is still theoretically an option. Maybe they want to go that direction. I don't know what this means.
Yeah, I don't.
We'll hopefully get more information on that.
Feels
from
it's fishy.
Today.
There's something's up here, Jesse. Something is up.
It's Derek Skubal, Derek. It's the only possible explanation.
Bring him home. Well, we got one more, and then I got to do some ads. But what do you got here, Damon?
Last question of the break, and it's Eddie Waters, and he says, "Are we actually entertaining trading away McCarthy? He's put himself above Thomas, in my opinion."
No. The answer is no. There is no way at this point the Arizona Diamondbacks should be entertaining trading away Jake McCarthy. However, his value probably couldn't be higher than it is right now.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate timing that it's right here at the trade deadline. Because if Mike Hazen is wooed by some sort of deal, especially for some sort of incredible pitcher, then Jake McCarthy very much could be on the table. I don't think he should be. I doubt that he actually would be. But again, you don't know if Jake McCarthy's value is ever going to be as high as a trade piece as it is right now.
That's a very valid point. I mean, McCarthy has a 767 OPS, a 118 OPS plus. That's a touch higher than his OPS plus in 2022 when he was, of course, also very good.
Yeah.
I don't think the D-backs are trading Jake McCarthy, not this trade deadline, but I have to agree with what you said. Like his trade value has maybe never been as high as it is right now. And I mean, I think his trade value after 2022 was pretty high as well because of how well he played. But that year even felt different because if you looked at his Savant page in 2022, it was like, okay, this guy just kind of massively overperformed, and that's why he had this breakout season. This year, that is not. I mean, maybe that's the case to a certain extent, but the expected stats for him are as good as they've ever been this season. If they did trade Jake McCarthy, Derek, all I will say is they better get a heck of a lot back because this fan base would,
right.
They love that man. And I can understand why.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like my morally ambiguous popcorn bucket I got from Deadpool and Wolverine, Jesse. I want
just
it.
Like it.
I just want it. But the value of it right now on eBay, astronomical. People are selling them for $150 all day long for a popcorn bucket, folks. I want to sell mine now, but I don't really want to because the reason why I bought it was because I wanted it, right? And I want to keep it, but
Jesse, I don't know about you, but that's right where my mind went to.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I started thinking of.
Hey, it was a better analogy than I expected.
Thank you.
I gotta give Derek. Give Derek his props on this.
When you're on eBay, sometimes your items might tempt you to sell them, and I mean, right now at the trade deadline, it might be very tempting. But of course, don't do it. Don't pull that trigger. And we know a little thing about money, but you know who knows more about money than us and value and trades and stocks and all of that stuff is Desert Financial Credit Union. Of course, we thank them so much for sponsoring the account. And we also thank them for being Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union for more than 84 years. Right now, you can look to Desert Financial for any kind of financial planning that you are trying to achieve. Of course, achieve your financial dreams and goals through Desert Financial. They have checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. Join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with their members. When you open a free checking account online right now, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. And also, baseball we have a little takeover event coming up here on Wednesday.
We do.
Pool party.
Yes.
Can't wait to see so many of you to defend that pool. I don't know who we're defending it against, but I will fight someone till the death in honor of that pool. But of course, if you want to join us, if you don't have tickets for that takeover event, unfortunately, it's all sold out, but you can still be there at Chase Field with us. Come over and say hi, hang out, and do that through Game Time, because Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute ticket deals for sports, concerts, comedy shows, and so much more. Right now, you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And I'll be honest with you, based on my recent experience, it's just kind of fun to value hunt. You can literally shut the app down and come back 15 minutes later, and suddenly there is a new ticket that or cheaper deal than you saw just a little while ago. So they have all-in pricing, which is great because you can toggle with that on, and you can see exactly what your ticket is going to cost. No surprises on the fees or how things are going to break down. And you can also get the lowest price guarantee. Game Time said they will credit you 110% of the difference. So if you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time right now, download the Game Time app and create an account. Use our code of PHNX and you will get $20 off your first purchase. Terms and do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Well, Geek Martinez says, let's go. Jake is in the lineup. That's good news. Very good news.
He is playing more consistently, it feels like.
Yep.
At least in the last
As
few days.
he should be.
Can we go up to Braden's comment from earlier? This was a while back. I thought it was pretty amazing. There it is. Yeah, it's the one at the bottom. Braden said, I wouldn't trade Jake. I did on MLB The Show last year, and my return looked good initially, but Jake went on to win all MVP.
AL MVP.
AL MVP.
Yeah.
Okay. With the Orioles.
How?
Which is wild to me. Like,
amazing.
even the biggest Jake McCarthy stan, I don't know if you'd
amazing.
necessarily be buying into Jake winning
I love
AL
that so
MVP.
much.
But
How does that even happen?
Because MLB The Show knows ball, Damon. They know ball. That's how
I mean, he
that
can't be
happens.
hitting more than like maybe 20 homers. Like, did he steal 120 bases? Like, I
don't like you questioning fictional Jake McCarthy winning the AL MVP with the Baltimore Orioles. I don't like that scenario either, but it's hilarious to me. And thank you so much for sharing it. Of course, welcome back here to the PHNX D-Back Show presented by Bet365. And we have some more Mailbag Monday questions. Damon, what do you got for us?
Next question comes from Kevin Lundberg, and he says, with it being over 100 games now, when will each of you individually worry that this is what Corbin Carroll is, far from even all-star caliber, let alone MVP, or do we have to wait until year 3 to see if the sophomore slump was only that?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely not deciding who Corbin Carroll is as a player based on the results of any single season, right? But, yeah, there does come a time if we get to season 3 and Corbin's playing more like this and less like he did in the first season that you might have to admit that maybe he is a bit more of a league average player than we thought, and maybe even, below league average in some cases. But I will say that I am cautiously optimistic that's not what Corbin Carroll is. And I still think that he's going to be a great baseball player. I just think that there is a whole different level of pressure applied to a young player a season after the team he's on went to the World Series, right? And I mean, it's not to say Corbin isn't mentally tough. It's just a matter of, you date it back to that almost, injury that he had at one point where we had that scary moment last season. And Corbin since then has kind of been different due to changes to his mechanics. I think he can figure out a way to get his mechanics back to a point where he's productive and doing a better job. We've talked about how flat his swing has been. We've talked about him changing his follow through and not doing the one-handed follow through as much. There's a lot of things there that Corbin has changed, to his swing. I think that's causing the problems. But at the end of the day, I still think that he's a driven player that will find a way to get back on track. And I believe in Corbin in that manner.
Yeah, I agree with that. Corbin could go the rest of the season with, the OPS kind of in the mid 600s and just not really looking in sync at the plate. And it still would not lead me to really question if he's like just actually maybe not the player that we first thought he was. For me, it will be telling what it looks like next season. If he continues to struggle the rest of the way this year after having a full off season and time to kind of undo maybe some of the things that he did this past offseason that wound up hurting a lot more than they helped. If after a full offseason, he's not able to make those adjustments and, early next year, we're still kind of looking at the same sorts of numbers, that's when I would maybe more seriously, kind of reevaluate Corbin Carroll in my mind. For right now, it still feels like a super talented baseball player who just is struggling against the very best pitching that he's ever faced, obviously. And it's been rough. And, the mechanical adjustments he made over the offseason clearly were not good things.
Yeah.
But I still think given a full offseason, in the grand scheme of things, Corbin is still really easy to bet on for me.
All right, what else we got, Damon?
I'm not out on Corbin. I just want to throw that out there.
I needed to hear that from you.
I mean, I've been as critical as almost anybody this entire season, but I think that J-Rod's kind of done a similar thing. Like, he had a bad sophomore year. I think that he's that level of talent, and it'll be figured out. But let's go on to 8th question. It's the basketball and football guy, and he asks, any chance that Merrill Kelly and or Eduardo Rodriguez, who could be back for the Phillies series, and when they both come back, will they take Yilber Diaz and Montgomery's places in the rotation, or Diaz and Nelson's place?
Did you slip a who in there?
Yeah, I do that every time.
He doesn't exist. I don't know. I mean, the Phillies series, that's August 8th, right? Like, that still seems very early, and we're even skeptical that those guys would be back even by the midpoint of the month, let alone after that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Kind of like I was saying earlier, I think if you map it out, you could maybe see those guys throwing 3 innings at some point this week. I mean, that would be the next logical step, assuming that their bullpens yesterday at Chase Field went well. Those guys should be throwing 3 innings at some point during the middle of this week. So 4 innings would be at some point early, mid next week. And then you could get to 5 innings after that. So mapping it out just kind of roughly the 11th, which is the series finale against the Phillies. That's the earliest that I could see either of these guys pitching. I think they've got Merrill one day ahead of Erod right now. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility that you could see maybe one of those guys in that series, but it still feels more likely to be the series after that, which would be when the team is on the road. They play the Tampa Bay Rays, the Miami Marlins, and then the Boston Red Sox. That feels more likely to me, maybe the beginning part of that road trip than getting back for the Philly series. But on paper, it could be possible.
That's soon. All right. What else we got, Damon?
Next question comes from Aber D-Back, and he says, my kids are going to Chase for the first time on Wednesday. We're coming over from Scotland.
Hey.
Nice. And they want to catch some baseballs. Any seat recommendations?
That's rad.
That is
coming
awesome.
Over from Scotland. That's amazing.
That is amazing. What do you think? Left field?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, left field would be. I mean, if you're looking to catch a home run ball, then yeah, left field. I mean, I guess you maybe have a higher chance of getting a ball in general if you're somewhere on the baseline, like a foul ball situation.
That's fair.
Unfortunately,
but that's so random.
Yeah, unfortunately, the odds of catching a ball are not particularly likely, no matter where you sit. Of course, batting practice, I would say,
that's true. Like, because the gate's open while batting practice is still going on, you might have to catch the opposing team taking batting practice because they usually go second after the Diamondbacks.
The problem there is that if we're talking about Wednesday's game, that's a day game. And the D-backs do not usually take batting practice. I don't believe they're planning to take batting practice before Wednesday's game. I'm not sure if the Nats would either. So, unfortunately, it might be a little tricky seeing batting practice. But who knows? Coming all the way from Scotland, right? Like, the baseball gods have to be in your favor.
It's true.
We hope, we wish you the best of luck.
It's true. Asked, what's his name? Zach Hampel, where do you stand or whatever.
Right.
That's the guy to ask. But all right, what else we got, Damon?
Chris here says it's Aberdeen Diamondback, like it's like a abbreviation for that. So I'm sorry for saying Aber, but yes.
Okay.
Next question comes from HH Rocker, and he says, how long till the broadcast team is banned from using the term sweep?
Right now.
Well, I mean,
now.
We've discussed this all the time. Steve has an addiction to jinxing this team. He loves it, and he's a great guy, and we all like Steve, but he loves the drama. He loves building up the moment.
Yeah,
and then
there are some things that I feel like is his job as an announcer to do, and it's
not jinxing the team.
It's our fans. No, it's just us as fans being ridiculous, thinking that the words that come out of a person's mouth actually jinx the baseball team, right? But then I think what's actually happened is so many people have kind of given him a hard time about him jinxing the team that, like, I'm starting to believe he loves it. I'm starting to believe he just thrives in that moment. He's
Jesse, I know you don't watch the broadcast, but Derek and I discussed it on like one of our last post-game shows. When O'Neal Cruz came up to the plate in that 9th inning, and it was like a 1-run baseball game, or maybe there was a runner on, and Sewald was in. Sewald gives up a lot of home runs. Steve was like, and here's O'Neal Cruz, who hit the Sanderson Ford F-150 in the outfield earlier today, about 450 feet. And you're like, what are you doing right now? Why?
It is uncanny that the Diamondbacks have only one sweep this season. That was May 7th to 9th against the Cincinnati Reds. Derek, that was going on 3 months ago. The Diamondbacks have gone without a sweep. And to be clear, I believe the Colorado Rockies have 2 sweeps this season. Like, you do not have to be a very good baseball team necessarily to rack up like a handful of sweeps. They're just like baseball and its general randomness that happens for pretty much every team around the league. The Diamondbacks, though, for whatever reason, they've gotten close. I mean, that Cubs series looked like a sweep. Obviously, they weren't able to finish the job there, and they weren't able to finish the job yesterday against the Pirates either.
All right, well. What else we got, Damon? Let's move on because Jesse keeps making me upset.
Now we have goofy questions, and Don Spread says, what's your fast food hot take? I'm sure Derek has like 20, so why don't we just give him the floor?
What's your fast food hot take? I mean, where do I even start? Right? Like,
here we go. Lock in, everybody. Jesse, you can swing that mic away from me.
No, Jesse has a fast food hot takes too. He's just concerned that Max is going to run out of his office screaming at us about no free ads. He absolutely is going to be doing that. I'll say that regional fast food places now being everywhere has ruined the excitement of traveling and eating fast food places. I used to love going into a town that had a bunch of weird fast food places I'd never seen, and now those places are all here everywhere. Like, I'd go into the Shake Shack. What's that? Jollibee. Oh yeah. Like, now that stuff's all everywhere, and there's nowhere you can go. But I will say, no, there's no In-N-Out slander in my heart at all.
I'm with you, Nicholas.
If In-N-Out were not so affordable, I would understand the take that it is overrated. But In-N-Out is the cheapest fast food restaurant that you can go to at this point.
That's the allure of it, though. I mean,
that's the allure of it, and it is still good. It is still totally good,
and it's cheap. But yeah, I mean, I don't get like the waiting for 45 minutes in your car for it. That's insane.
That's very much the case, right? Like, when it comes to, like, for instance, Waffle House. Waffle House is a perfect example. I love Waffle House. I know it's not fast food, but it's like fast diner food, right? And it's I would never defend like it as being like a culinary experience.
You go to Waffle House like regularly?
I love Waffle House so much, Jesse. I love Waffle House.
Is it Waffle House where he made Totri go after he lost the fantasy?
I could go to Waffle House right now. Yeah, but see, I'm not trapped there for 24 hours. So there's a big difference when you're not trapped there for 24 hours, right? My fast food hot take is that Wendy's is the best fast food. There's my hot take. Wendy's, best fast food burger.
Best fast food burger in particular?
Best fast food burger.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's expensive, I will add. I would rather pay several dollars less In-N-Out than go to Wendy's.
That's fair.
The thing is Wendy's
but you're not
pretty
sit
cheap.
in line. Yeah, you're not going to sit in line.
I feel like Wendy's like kind of used to be cheap, and it's not anymore.
Everything used to be cheap, Jesse. There's this thing called inflation.
That's fair.
Welcome to 2024 America.
I've never been super fond of Wendy's French fries. I find myself a little disappointed
Very
there
salty.
from time to time.
Do you dip them in the Frosty?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
If you don't dip them in the Frosty,
I
don't
do
even
not,
go to Wendy's.
I
Don't
do not
go to
normally
Wendy's.
dip them
If
in
you're
the
not going to
Frosty,
dip the French fries in the Frosty, don't go to Wendy's.
I think it tells me everything I need to know about Wendy's French fries, though, that you feel the need to dip them in ice cream for them to be good enough for you.
Grew up at the Wendy's at 35th Avenue in Greenway, basically. So that's what we did as kids. And you know what? It's still great.
Ina's trying to get us in trouble with Max here.
Yeah. What's up with all the food sponsors?
Ina's definitely like
I know. All right.
I have a decent one.
What do you got?
I think it's become popular to be like Arby's is disgusting, and I think Arby's is pretty good.
I really like Arby's myself. Arby's. Here's a fast food hot take. I want an explanation from Arby's how they can give me 10 beef and cheddars for $10. Show me the math on that. How does it make sense financially for you? Each one has a half a pound of roast beef on it.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a little concerning.
It's amazing.
They don't actually do that, do they?
Oh yeah, they do. Like I think it's like 5 for $10. They have crazy deals on the beef and cheddar where it'll be like, you know, down to $1.
I've seen like 2 for $5. I've never seen 10 for 10.
Well, you haven't seen the RB like anniversary thing they had. They were going crazy with their beef and cheddars and stuff.
Okay.
Max is going to lose his mind.
Yeah, illegal pizza is the best. That's what I want to throw out there. Walk over to IPs.
I mean, illegal Pete's is in a different category.
Yeah, that's not fast food,
right?
No,
that
it's
is
not.
absolutely fast food. Oh no, you walk in, you order it, you get it. Is Chipotle not fast food?
No, see, this is a hot take.
I'm more
fast
thinking
food.
You
Fast
guys
food has a
lost it.
drive-through.
Fast food has a drive-through.
Fast food has a drive-through.
Some of them don't. This one doesn't. You
Some
get your
of the-
food.
oh,
You
some
get your
of the
food
illegal
within
Pete's
2
have a
minutes.
drive-thru?
How is that not fast food? You get your food
Well,
in
no,
2
you're
minutes.
not wrong about that, but like, see, this is why I wouldn't consider Chipotle fast food.
You're
Right,
wrong.
right.
You're wrong.
There's a hot take.
If I went on my phone right now and I
hot
say
take.
fast food and I type it in on my maps, Chipotle will come up. That is a fact. So you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know if Apple Maps is like the arbiter of
end-all
like.
be-all.
pretty sure it is.
I don't know
Google.
about that.
We're
More
gonna
so than
Google
Derek
things
and Jesse.
now.
More so
Fake
than
news.
Derek and Jesse.
Yeah.
Whoever those guys are,
Wow.
what authority they have.
Wow.
I thought Damon respected us.
I
more
thought he
than
did
that.
too, but I thought he
hurtful.
respected fast food more than
what
this.
a great call, AZ Cats G.
Yeah.
Just what a great call.
Oh, EG's is awesome. Yeah, that's a good
EG's
that's a
is
good call too.
place.
I really enjoy their drinks. All right, what else we got, Damon? Let's get one more because we've been on doing this show for way too long and people are sick of looking at us.
Last question comes from Elizabeth, and she says, "What Olympic sport would each D-back compete in besides
Oh
track
my
slash marathon?"
God. This is the question we get as the last question, a question that's going to take me 45 minutes to answer it. I mean, the obvious answers here are like track, right? Or like Corbin running
Right.
anything, Dre Jameson running
Well, I think
anything.
we were specifically asked to not just do the track marathon thing, right?
All right. Yeah.
I would like to see, I think Miguel Castro and Alec Thomas would be a pretty dynamite beach volleyball duo.
Oh, wait, what
Do you
about
see it?
what about like Ryan Thompson?
Yeah.
Because Ryan Thompson and
too.
Miguel
Yeah.
Castro are also close, right? He's talked to us before about his relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
I feel like with beach volleyball, you want like one guy who's super tall and then another guy who's like maybe crazy fast. That feels like
Okay,
they'd, like,
that's a good
balance each
combo.
other out
Yeah,
well. So
yeah.
maybe Ryan Thompson and Corbin Carroll, and then Alec Thomas and Miguel Castro. AJ Puck, I guess we got to put him with someone
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
Maybe he gets Jake McCarthy.
Okay. What about Alec Thomas has the build of a gymnast? Like he would be doing the rings or the pommel horse.
Yeah.
He's about 5 inches too tall to be a gymnast.
I mean, yeah, like that's definitely true, but I definitely think that he would do a good job at that.
I think Corbin could kill it on a skateboard.
Yeah.
He just looks like a skateboarder.
Oh, yeah. Skateboarding is an Olympic sport now. He definitely does. I mean, a few of the guys do. Dre, another guy that looks probably like a skateboarder for sure. I don't know why, but I envision Lourdes Gurriel taking off that fencing mask after winning his match.
Oh, okay.
And having
All
his
right.
purple hair pop out and him do that. And like, it just be magnificent. Like, you know?
I would like to see Gabby and Lourdes as like a rowing duo.
Yes.
I think that has some serious potential.
Any kind of tandem where the two of them
anything where they
Gabby
get
and
to-
Lourdes synchronized diving.
synchronized swimming.
There we go.
Yeah.
Just in sync with each other.
Yeah. for
What
sure.
about handball? I feel like that's the game that baseball players would be really good
I
at.
really got into handball the other day, actually watching it. That's actually a sport I think Ryan Thompson can be really good at because of the arm slot, right?
I mean, isn't cricket one of them? Like cricket is probably the closest sport to baseball.
Yeah,
Right.
That's fair.
The
But
D-backs
handball,
would win the gold medal.
handball,
in
they have to like throw it into
Change my
like
mind.
you know, I don't know. I like that. Anything else? I mean, there's a lot of boring sports, but I mean, I don't know.
I feel like Jerry would be good at something. I'm trying to put my
Water
finger on
polo?
what it would
Water
be.
polo.
Water
But, like,
polo?
Water polo.
What about like fencing?
Yeah. I mean, I see now. I just want to see Lourdes and Perdomo fence each other.
I mean, one of the pitchers.
Table tennis.
Yeah.
That's what Perdomo's good at.
Come on, Justin.
I could
What
see
about
that.
what about archery? Does anyone stand out there
As an archer,
as an archer?
Fernando Rodney.
Yeah, I guess that's
Merrill
kind of
Kelly.
the right answer there.
Merrill
but-
Kelly. just pinpoint command.
Yeah,
on
no,
that, on that
yeah.
bow.
No,
right.
yeah, like I mean,
Brandon Fott, maybe? Brandon
Joe
Fott,
Mantiply. Like, how did you get started in this? Well, I was hunting, and then eventually I found out I was a world class archer. So then I transitioned over to this sport.
There you go.
Yeah. There we
Judo,
go.
Thompson and Derek.
Yeah, me and T-Time going at it. Judo. Well, we thank you guys so much for the wonderful questions. As always, we thank you guys for being here. Hit that like button before you get out of here, by the way. Do us that favor, of course. Also, follow us on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the people's producer, Damon, is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are Damon's Dogs. Bark, bark.
Bark.
Make sure to join us tomorrow for a dual episode. We don't know exactly when we're going to go live because we got a little bit of a media availability with the man himself, Mike Hazen. So we will be going live shortly after the trade deadline with a trade wrap-up show. And then we will also be bringing you a post-game show tomorrow night. So make sure to keep it locked right here. Of course, you can follow our show at PHNX_DBacks. But of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you don't have to keep asking the question, who is going to be our closer?
We all silly like the mayor.